Hey.
Go for it.
Hi everyone, my name is Jim, and I'm here to be your instructor today on backyard beekeeping. For those who are new, welcome, and I'm going to give you a real quick review, I think, here we go, of what we did last week. Last week was introduction. What do you actually need to get into beekeeping? Believe it or not, very simple. You're allowed to do it as long as you register with the state. Registering with the state is simple, not very expensive, and beneficial. Number two, you need equipment, and we went over the types of hives a little bit, vertical and horizontal. We also talked about equipment, which is the bee suit, the smoker and tools, and how to set up the apiary in a nice safe location. You must have water to help keep the bees hydrated. They're just like you and me. They need to eat and drink, and they need shelter. Other thing is you want to be a good neighbor. So I have mine right in the city. I have a fence, and the bees inside the fence, they got to go up and over the fence to get out of the yard. My neighbors never see them. So very basic, boom. Now let's talk about the bees themselves. First of all, did you realize that there's over 20,000 different types of bees in the world, different species? There's over 3,000 that live in the United States alone, over 320,000 bees that live in Florida, species of bees, and 35 of those species are unique to Florida only. But out of all those bees, only one is kept and managed by man, the honeybee. But that's okay. There's more than one type of honeybee. And what we've got to do as beekeepers, figure out what is the best type of bee that's suited for us. Now, one nice thing about this chart up here, it gives me a visual of what the bees look like. And you'll notice we got some nice yellow and black ones, and we got some nice dark black ones, and another dark ones over there. And I don't know if this is official or not, but I made the observation that the African, the buckfast, the cordovan, and the Italian, all those light yellow bees, are more or less southern bees, where the dark ones are more northern bees. Actually, these three are coming out of northern Russia. Now,
where do you get that chart?
I found it online. It came in one of the bee magazines. So, easy to download it. The nice thing about this is they rated the different characteristics of the bees based on the beekeeper's preference, not necessarily the bees. And as you can see, defensive behavior, by the way, did you know that honeybees are not aggressive? They're defensive. Now, somebody might argue that point when you get into an Africanized bee that has extremely defensive characteristics. They are nicknamed killer bees. Thankfully, even though they are in our area, we haven't seen very many of them. And that's good for a program that was initiated in the southern states is we requeen wild swarms to eliminate the chances of Africanized strains within our beehives. Nobody likes it when the bees come out and want to sting you. A normal honeybee will defend its hive and its food and its babies. Other than that, they don't care about you. They're too busy doing their own thing. But if we take somebody who has a nice, gentle defensive attitude, they might come out 5-10 feet from the hive and defend it. The Africanized bee might come out 1,000 feet. So, not a very good characteristic. The most popular bee is the Italian bee. It seems to have very good overall ratings on honey collection, gentleness on the hive, all the characteristics we as beekeepers seem to enjoy. Now, the nice things about the different types of bees, these were originally developed for their climate. When you take a look at bees that has early foraging, the ones that seem to do it are the northern bees. Why? They have a very short window. So bees have developed over the centuries due to their climate. If we bring that Russian bee down here to Florida, it can get a little bit disorientated. We don't have the hard winters they're used to. Now, if we take an Africanized bee and move it up north, again, it's not the environment they're used to. So they may have a little bit of an acclimation period. For that reason, I have my own personal preference. I like Floridian bees. He's not on the chart. I personally prefer local swarms over imported bees. That's a personal preference. Okay, if this thing only clicked one at a time. I do not like your clicker. Okay. How do you get bees? There's 3 ways of getting bees. 2 of them are very convenient. We can buy them in a nuke or a package, or we can catch them in a swarm. The swarm is based on luck. You've got to have the right place and the right equipment at the right time. Now, on a nuke, it's actually an abbreviation for a nucleus, which means the main core or the center of a beehive. And literally what they did is they created a mini beehive and put it in a box, and they're willing to sell it to you. A package, on the other hand, is random bees collected, put in a box, and a queen added and shipped to you. A nuke, being an already existing colony, has the queen, has eggs, has food, has workers, and is a family. All they need is a new home. The package is a bunch of strangers put together looking for a place to live. And a swarm is a colony that's decided it's time to relocate. Okay, now, which type of hive package should you get? Depends on the type of hive you have. If I'm in your way? Okay, this is the Langstroth hive, is what I refer to as our vertical hive. It's stacked one on top of the other vertically. It is the industry standard, the most common beehive you will find in the United States, and it is the one that is promoted almost by every commercial beekeeper, every catalog, every place you go online. The second alternative is the horizontal beehive. This is more designed for a backyard operation. It's simpler in design and operation, and in my personal opinion, easier to use. Less parts on it, and it's got this neat little window you can put on it to see what's going on without opening up the whole hive. I personally like that. Now, if you noticed, this has slanted sides by design. If I bought a nuke, which is a mini beehive, it's based off of this hive. It comes in square frames. And if you try to put a square frame in a triangular hole, it doesn't quite fit right. So a horizontal hive would not be a practical use for a nuke. I'd have to go with the package, because the package is a random collection of bees. Here, I just take frames out, transfer the frames in, they're interchangeable to the nuke. So what type of package you order can be determined by the type of hive you have. You guys follow me on that one? Okay. Best time to order bees. Here's the fun part. The beekeeper's year starts in the spring. That's when the bees come awake and start getting active. They go out looking for forage. Their colony is growing. Swarms are happening. And everything's taking off. So the best time to install your bees is in the springtime. Everything is awake. Everybody is going forward. The bees are out foraging. They're bringing in their food. Perfect time. It is the worst time to order bees because everybody already has. The best time to order bees is back in November and December before the winter starts, especially if you're ordering them in from one of the bee companies. They have to pre-plan. I talked with a beekeeper last week. He only had 30,000 hives. Yeah, that's more than I care to even think about yet alone. But he's already planning on next year's production. He has to figure out what he needs, where he's going, how many orders he has. So for us, as small backyard beekeepers, we got to get our order in fast. Because some master beekeeper might come along and turn around and pre-order ahead of us. And if it happens to be a commercial job, they might be ordering 50, 100, 1,000 packages. And
or they might order in August so they avoid all this mess.
But anyways.
I have a question.
Yes.
If you're just starting out and you're having one hive, how many bees do you want to order?
One package.
Just one?
Yes. They came prepared.
How many come in a package?
Okay, a package or bees, and I don't care if this is going to be a nuke or a package or a swarm, is going to be somewhere around 5,000 bees. 5 to 10,000 bees. A package is put together by weight, 3 pounds of bees. Yeah, they actually take and put a scale out there, put a box on it, put a funnel on it, grab some bees, shake them into the funnel, they fall inside, and when they're here, they stop. But that's something else. So yes, you're looking between 5 to 10,000 bees in a package. It comes in as one package, and that's enough to get one hive up and running. Good question, I like that one. Okay, so bees get active in the spring, but you want to order your bees in advance because everything goes crazy.
So when you order the bees in November, December, when do you get them?
That's the nice thing. They usually don't ship them until around April and May. Like I said, springtime is our big time because they have to get their bees through the winter up and running and know they're good to go. A lot of these are happening up in Georgia and other states. Florida is about a month ahead of everybody else because of our climate. If you're getting bees from Wisconsin, it's still snowing up north. We're pushing 90-degree temperatures. Okay, you don't want, yeah. Okay, best place to get bees. There's all kinds of major companies online. Man Lake, Better Bees, Dedant. There's also some very good local beekeepers. They're up down in Mims, Umatilla, New Smyrna. I prefer the local beekeepers because, like I told you before, I want Floridian bees. I don't care if they're Italian descendants, but I want them acclimated to Florida as much as possible. Because believe it or not, beekeeping is a local activity. The average bee never travels more than 2 miles from his hive. There's reports some of them get further, but it's usually with the tailwind going downhill, both directions, and they might make it 4 to 5 miles from home. It's the exception, not the rule. I've only heard of one documented report on that one, but the average is about 2 miles from their hive. So if you're in DeLand, your bees never leave DeLand. If you're in New Smyrna, they never leave New Smyrna. By the way, the coast is totally different than inland. Different climates due to the ocean, the breezes, the types of plants they have. Beekeeping is local. So keep my bees as local as possible is my preference.
When a colony of bees tries to split,
Yes.
you've got some of them moving, well, we're going to relocate. How far do they usually move from their original hive?
Okay, the question is, how far does the swarm move from its original hive to its new location? It's a two-step process. First of all, when the swarm, are you guys familiar with what a swarm is? Okay, a swarm is when an existing colony has gotten so big and so strong that it decides it's time to reproduce. Bees do not reproduce by the queen laying eggs. That only makes the existing colony bigger and stronger. They reproduce by splitting like an amoeba into two new colonies. When it swarms, one half of the colony will leave with the queen. The old one stays behind, gets a new queen, and starts afresh. So, new colony looking for a new home with an old colony with the new queen getting reestablished. Her question was, how far? Two-stage answer. The first one might be less than 100 feet to a staging area, where they hang on a tree while the scouts go out looking for a new home. That could be up to maybe, I'd say, a quarter mile from the house, not much more than that. So they stay within a relatively close proximity to their home. Again, keeping local, but bees can march away. Did that answer your question? Okay, best places to buy locally. Let's go back and review the different packages. First one is a nuke. This is a 5-frame nuke in a mini box of the same dimensions as a regular long Langstroth hive, but they're in a very specific order. You see now pollen and nectar on the outside, honey and nectar on the outside, capped brood, and eggs in the queen in the center. Very specific, that's the way they set up in their normal hive. When you go to transfer it, they come in this nice little shipping box. Some of them are in wooden boxes. If you're raising your own, I recommend the wood over the pig coop. But anyways, they'll ship this into you. By the way, do you know they send it to you by the U.S. mail? And if you're going to order bees, the company will notify you 48 hours in advance saying we're going to be sending you bees out tomorrow. You should have them within 2 days. Call your local post office. I found out all those postal workers like them as much as we do. And when a box comes in there and it's buzzing, they take it and put it out on the back porch in the sun, away from them. Or they put it on the back of a truck and the driver doesn't like it, and call them and say, I have live bees coming, please notify me. My phone rang at 5 in the morning. They said, how soon you can be here? I said, I'll be there within a half hour. I went down there. I walked in there. I says, hi, I have a package of bees. And somebody says, thank God. But yes, you don't want to leave the bees at the post office any longer than you have to because they don't care for them as much as we do. They put them in strange locations that may not be best for them. And they've been traumatized enough already for the last 48 hours. Bring them home, let them cool down a little bit. I put them in the garage. Then I set up my beehive. Then I took it out, and then I started transferring these one at a time. A Langstroth hive normally consists of 10 bars. Boom, boom, boom. As you can see what they did, they put 2 on this side, they put 3 on this side, and they got 5 empty ones in the center. guess where these 5 are going to go? It makes sense. Put them back in the same exact order they came in. You want to maintain the integrity of the nest. And the bees build it in a specific order. All I want to do is one at a time. If this is it, I'm going to take this one over here and boom, and just repeat the process. Close them up, or if there's any extra bees in here after you get transferring, if you're brave, pick the box up while this is still open and shake them upside down and let them fall on top of it. Then you take this box and put it on the ground right down here next to it. By the way, this is the entrance to the hive. The queen will end up in here. She sends out a fragrance or an odor known as a pheromone, and it tells everybody, here I am and everything's okay. Any stragglers will find it, they will pick up on here, and they will go in on their own. Nice, easy move. Now, this is a package. Remember I told you it was a box? There's an opening on top. They got a can on top of that one. That's actually sugar water. Because this has no wax in it. It has no frames in it. It just has bees. And the bees have to eat. So they put a can of sugar water in there with holes punched in it for them to eat. Keeps them quiet, occupied. This is a queen cage. The queen is placed in this cage and hung inside there next to the can. Now, remember I told you we had strange bees with an unknown queen being put together. She is in a cage to protect her because if the bees don't recognize somebody, they attack. We leave her in the cage there until they start to realize, oh, wait a minute, she's the only queen in the box. Maybe we'd better keep her. Now, when we go to install this, here's my box down here. I take the queen out of here, and I put her someplace safe. Take that can of water out, set it aside. And now I got a couple of thousand bees in there. And I want to get them out of there, into here, so I turn the box upside down, walk over to it, and give it a good solid shake. And the bees will fall out the opening. Some of them are off on the side, so I may have to do a little bit of rock and roll on them. And a majority of them will fall right down into here. I've actually been known to take a few bars out and let them drop all the way to the bottom, then gently put the bars back in. Then I take the empty box with the stragglers and put it on the ground down here next to them. Now what did I forget to do? The queen. I got to take the queen out of here and hang it inside between those frames for the next 48 hours. Maybe 72, and he's going to disagree with me.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, you ever see the people with bees all over? That's because they took a queen, they put it on their shoulder, and all the bees went to it.
Yeah, if you ever want to do that photo op,
That's the trick.
put that queen in there and stand there for a while, then they'll come up and start to hang on you. But anyways, I kept the queen nice and safe and warm in my pocket while I put them in there. Then in there. The next thing I do is I take that can of sugar water and I have to set it up because these bees have no food. I have to feed these bees. I don't care about how good the pollen flow is going on right now. They have no reserves. They have nothing to fall back on. So they need to be fed. And sugar water, which is basic sugar and water, and in the springtime we do a 1-to-1 ratio, 1 part sugar, 1 part water. You warm it up to dissolve it, don't boil it. Cool it down, And we have special feeders that we can pour it into and put it in the hive. Because I do that horizontal hive, I just get a plastic bowl, put the sugar water in there, and I get a bunch of old wine corks and float them. I found bees are very good at flying, but lousy at swimming. So to keep them from drowning, I put the little floaties in the water and they can hang on from there.
So that person is not wearing a bee suit.
Okay,
How did they do that?
let me answer this way. You ever notice people when they first start a new activity, they follow all the rules? The rules are there for a reason. But for some reason, the more experienced you get, the more confident you get, the more lazy you get. And some of them actually believe that if they get stung, it's good for their health. It's good for arthritis, a lot of things. But I'll tell you a little secret.
Maybe right here.
Oh, I get stung over here and swell up to here. You know, poof. Okay. Yes, some people can and will work without a suit. I do not recommend it. I tried it once. Guess what? I suit up now. Yes, there is a reason for that. I found out no matter what anybody tells you, I don't care how many times I've been stung, each one hurts. And I swell up, and it itches, and it's no fun. It's part of the game. I accept it. But yes, there are some that feel, oh, I can do it. They're gentle this time. I've seen people go up and reach into a swarm, barehanded.
Do some people just naturally not get stung as much? Is there like a,
Okay,
I don't want to get too woo-woo or anything, but it seems like some people.
let's put it this way. Bees have personalities and attitudes. Okay? Plain and simple. You may be the friendliest one, he may not be so well. That's just individuals. He may be really good in the morning, you may not be. Okay, bees are the same way. I found out in the early morning, when they've been just coming out of the hive, they're cranky. They haven't eaten yet. They've been cramped up with another 40, 50,000 of their siblings. You know, they got to get out. I also found out on rainy days they don't fly, and they're all at home. They're not as happy. They seem to be happiest on a nice warm day around 75 degrees in the morning when they can go out and visit all the flowers. They're happier in the springtime when there's a lot of flow than they are in the wintertime. So the bees can, and yes, I do know this, and I do take advantage of it. In the springtime, I put on a light jacket, and I go work my suit. I also found out in the springtime and summertime, it's 95 degrees out. Okay, in the fall, winter, the bees are not as happy. They're more protective. They're defending their colony. I put on a full suit. Why? They're defending their territory. I also know when and how, and I can listen. Experienced beekeepers, try that again. Experienced beekeepers can come up and go, yeah, she's in a good mood. Or they can come up and say, okay, I'm not going to say anything to her this morning. They can read the hive. Don't do that as a newbie. Learn about it, suit up, protect yourself, please. Minimum, if you're going to be this guy, put a veil on. Bees go for the face, the nose, the mouth, the ears. Why? Because that's the most vulnerable part of any animal that attacks a hive. Okay. Yes, I have just a hive. Yes, I got 1, 2, 3, 4 bee suits, and I only got 2 hives. So figure that one out. Any questions on how to transfer a package? Good. Feeding the bees. Remember that special feeder I talked about? There it is. Goes right into the entrance of the hive. You can see how much sugar water they're drinking. Recipe, Very simple, we do a 1-to-1 solution in the springtime. It helps stimulate the wax building, gets the bees up and running, gives them a little bit of energy. In the wintertime, they recommend a 2-to-1 so they can build up their supplies. I firmly believe in this. This, I think, is more towards commercial beekeeping than my backyard operation. Again, it runs a little bit into personality. Not only is beekeeping local, it's personal. Sugar water is a nice stopgap to get the bees up and running. One of the biggest complaints we have right now, and I've picked this up at the meeting the other day, that honey is the number one, what do they call it, contaminated product. Right.
People are doing it on purpose?
Right, they purposely turn around and dilute it and make sugar syrup taste like honey and sell it in the stores. That's when you can find out.
Oh, adulterated.
Yes. But anyways,
I do a whole class on that.
yes, honey is the number one counterfeited product in the United States, if not the world.
Well, maple syrup isn't maple syrup either in a lot of.
No, 90% of it is,
And Canadians aren't really Canadians.
yes, so a lot of that, I take a look, I believe in helping my bees get a good start, but I don't believe in feeding them year-round with sugar. If you put too much sugar there, if you need to do it to get them through a hard winter, time and place. Feeding all the time, you dilute the honey with sugar water. Not what I call my kind of honey. Inspections. Okay, we just found out that we can order bees, we can put them in a hive, we can get them up and running. Next step in our line is we're going to have to get in and take a look at the bees every once in a while. It's called inspection. What do we look for when we're doing an inspection? This is a nice frame of beeswax taken out of one of our long straw hives. In it, you see this nice brown area in the center. That is brood. Brood is another word for babies. The queen will run around and lay an egg in every one of these empty cells to a tune of about 1,500 to 2,000 eggs a day.
Oh my God.
Yes, she has one purpose in life, and that's to lay eggs. And she does a fantastic job of it. As the eggs start to mature, they get to a stage where they go through a development. They cap each cell off with a wax capping, and brood is capped with a nice light brown capping. Down here in the corner, you notice this one down here, they look a little bit bigger, puffier. These are females, these are the males, the drones. Drones are bigger, so they need more room, so theirs looks more like a pencil eraser because they stick up a little bit taller. Over here, you see this little gap around the brood chamber. That's where the bees store pollen. Pollen is the food for the babies. So they keep their food as close to the source that they need to feed as possible. And this white stuff on the corners is honey, capped honey. When honey is ripe, they cap it with a nice white wax so I can tell the difference. Isn't that nice of them? So this is what we're looking for when we go into an inspection. We want to see a good laying pattern by the queen, see that they have food surrounding the brood chamber so that they have food close by for when they feed the babies.
Who feeds the babies? Like, how's the pollen get into the babies?
Good question.
How it gets into the holes or whatever.
Okay. Hierarchy of a hive. There's only 3 types of bees in a hive. You have the queen, you got the drone, and you have workers. You have summer bees and winter bees, workers. The queen has one job, that is to lay eggs. The drone has one job, to go out, hang out with the guys and chase virgin queens. They do nothing else in the hive. They get up every morning, they ask the girls to feed them, they go out and hang out with the guys all morning, come back when they're tired and hungry, have the girls feed them, then they go out and hang out with the guys again, waiting for a virgin queen to come by.
They're not picky about who feeds them either.
No.
They'll go to any hive they can find.
And, okay, meanwhile, back in the hive, we got the workers. The workers make up 90% of the bees in there, and the workers are happen to be the females. And they do everything else in the hive. They feed the males, they clean, they take care of the babies, they escort the queen, they do absolutely everything. They do the foraging, they do the guarding, the girls run the show. Yes. So, it's the worker bees that go out and feed the babies when they're hatching. They also want it. Okay. This is the second thing you're going to look for when you're doing an inspection. I showed you the first slide when the babies were already capped. Over here, see these little white dots? Those are the eggs. They're about the size of a grain of rice or smaller. Queen lays one in every one. Then, after 3 days, this egg develops into a larva, which is like a little worm. Meanwhile, the worker bees feed these larvae with what they call bee bread. Royal jelly at first, then bee bread afterwards, and they start to develop on it. And then after 6 days, they cap these so that the bees can go through a metamorphosis to come out and change from the larva into the bee itself, and it emerges as a full-grown bee. That takes a total of 21 days. So, we take a look, you have capped brood, which is the pupa stage, then you got the larva stage, and then you got the eggs, and then there's the food and the pollen all around it in close proximity that the bees don't have to travel. They are masters of efficiency. They do everything with it, yeah. So when you're looking there, these are the different stages that you're looking for to make sure the queen is laying. She does not do this on all the frames, usually just the first 5 or 7 in the frame, and then they come, yes. Now, when you actually pull it, they're covered in bees. Again, you can see the pattern going on, the brood drone brood. Remember I said it looks like little pencil erasers. The worker brood are smooth. Empty cells where one just emerged out. Pollen on the outside, honey, yeah. The bees are very good. And you can see here, they're building new wax. So when you're pulling a frame out, this is what it might look like before it's fully developed. The queen doesn't waste any time. If you pull a frame like this, that's pure honey. Remember that stack of boxes? Our picture had about 5 or 6 boxes stacked up in there. Only 2 of those boxes have brood in it. Boy, this thing does not want to. 3, 4, 5, and 6 can be all honey. The bees on a good year can bring in 100 pounds of honey per hive. Now, they only need down here in Florida around between 30 to 50 pounds of honey to get them through the winter. But they're overachievers. They don't know when to stop. So when they start going crazy and they start building up 50, 75, 100. Guess who gets the extra? And we get to go ahead and type that.
How often would you want to do an inspection? Like, so you're not disturbing them too much, but obviously still maintaining and...
Very good question. The question is, how often do I want to go in and inspect and disturb the bees? Springtime, when they're just getting established, because we're actually going to have 2 different seasons to work with. If you're your first year, you're starting with the new colony that's building. If you're an experienced one, second year on, you have a carryover from last year. How I handle my first year colony, I'm in there more frequently than I am on an older colony. Springtime is build-up time, swarm time, critical time. That's when I lose most hives. And I'm sorry, if you're going to keep bees, you're going to lose bees. It's part of nature. They're in trouble, they have a lot going against them. We're here to help them out, so don't be surprised if you lose one every once in a while. I lose some every year. The nice thing is, they split, they grow, and I even get to give some bees away after once in a while. The question was how often? It depends on the position of the bees. First getting established, I'm in there about every 3 days. I want to make sure they've got enough sugar water. I want to make sure they're building comb. I want to make sure they're bringing in food. As I see more and more pollen and nectar being brought in, I back off on the sugar water. I want to make sure they have enough frames so they have room for expansion. In a Langstroth hive, I can add a box at a time, which is 10 frames at a time. But I can change the size, the depth of the box, so I can control my expansion. I want to make sure they have room for expansion, but not too much that they can't control the internal environment, because they've got to maintain the brood chamber at a constant temperature. So if I can control my space as the colony grows and expand it, I'm better off. Once they're up and running during the summer, I can back off to maybe every 2 to 3 weeks before I get in there. Keep an eye on them in the fall, because in the fall they start to go from expansion mode to contraction mode. Now I may want to reduce the amount of space. So as the bees do this, so does my activity. Does that answer your question? Calendar and timetables are hard. You got to learn it from the bees.
You have to know their behaviors. If they're not acting right, you want to go check it out. Give you an example. I don't have any bees going in and out. Why? Well, just had a rain. Well, everything's going to bloom, right? Yeah, but it's not going to have any nectar for 2 or 3 days. Once the nectar's out, it'll be like Grand Central Station going in and out of it. Those are the things that become automatic over a period of time.
Yes, we're going to learn more from the bees than you'll learn from him and me. Okay, when can I harvest honey? For some reason, that seems to be a side issue with beekeepers. They say, oh, I love my bees, where's my honey? First year, don't count on it. I don't care if I'm getting a nuke, a package, or a swarm. They are coming in with essentially nothing. A nuke comes in with 5 frames, and you're going to build them to 50 frames in 1 year. That's a lot of work. A swarm is coming in with absolutely nothing, and it's got to start and build. The guesstimate, that it takes somewhere between 6 to 10 pounds of honey for the bees to build 1 pound of beeswax. You have to build honeycomb on every one of those frames in your hive. And you're looking at 50 to 60 frames. That's a lot of wax, a lot of work. Plus, the bees have to make it through the winter. There is no pollen in the winter. Maybe down here, but not that much. As he mentioned, rainy season affects us. Drought affects us. Freezes affect us. And believe it or not, Florida actually has freezes. If you don't believe me, check the calendar for last month. But the bees have to store. They need 30 to 50 pounds of honey to get through the winter down here. Now, if they only use 30 pounds, guess what's left over in the springtime? They usually don't eat old honey once the new stuff starts coming in. So I got to get rid of that, so give them more room. Pardon me. Okay, so don't count on it this year.
So you would harvest in the spring then, after they made it through the winter?
Yes, part of my spring inspection on my second year hive is to make sure they're up and running, they're bringing in pollen, they're laying eggs, and oh, there's some old honey. I'm going to move it out to give them room to make new. So, up north, they say 60 pounds. Down here, our winters are not so severe as they are up in Wisconsin or someplace like that, so I gear back a little bit on it. So, yes, our bees can be productive. I have seen hives that have gone crazy, and you might find out there's 60, 70 pounds of honey in a first-year hive. Happens, don't count on it. If it does happen, still 1 or 2 frames. You deserve a little bit of reward. As I mentioned, our goal for the first year is to get the bees through the winter. That's their goal. Everything they're doing is to survive what we call a dearth, a period of non-productivity. There's no pollen out there, no nectar for them to bring in. They have to live off of their stores that they brought in. You do not want to take that away from them. Err on the side of good judgment. Leave it for the bees. I can harvest it in the spring if they don't take it. That way, by the way, the best food in the world for the bees, their own honey. They picked what they needed, what they wanted, stored it, processed it. I can give them all the sugar water in the world. It's never going to be as good as what they make themselves. That's kind of my wrap up on introduction into beekeeping. Any questions at this point?
What's the lifespan of a bee?
Very good question. The question is the lifespan of the bee. We have 3 different types of bees in the beehive. I got 4 different answers for you.
Okay.
The queen is the longest lived bee in the hive, and she is also the largest bee in the hive. She can live anywhere from 3 to 5 years. Unfortunately, due to environmental conditions that we are facing today, that period is decreasing. Number 2, the drone, the male worker bee. He lives for 1 season. I forgot to tell you one thing about the drone. When the hard times come, the workers won't put up with him, they won't feed him, they kick him out. And he does not know how to forage or feed himself, so his outlook is not very good. So he could live up to 4 to 6 months. The worker bee is divided into 2 classifications, my summer bees and my winter bees. Summer bees are out foraging all the time. Their average life expectancy after hatching is 4 to 6 weeks. Winter bees, because they're not out foraging, could go up to 3 to 4 months. Does that answer your question? Good. Anybody?
The structure of the way you were showing, the center bee, the way it spreads out, is the position in that frame affect, how is the sex determined? Like I noticed that your puffy ones were on the outskirts. Did they turn into males because of where they were?
Okay. The difference between a worker and a drone. The worker is the most populous bee in the hive. Out of 100,000 bees, 90,000 will be the female workers. Only 10% or 10,000 will be the males. The workers are clustered in the center and require the most attention. The males are surrounding on the outside. They don't need quite as high of a temperature to germinate.
Is that what determines their sex? Like, when the
Oh,
queen is laying
the
their
queen,
eggs?
no, believe it or not, the workers determine. The workers build the honeycomb. The male bee being larger needs a bigger cell. So they usually build those around the outside edge of the frame because it's a little bit larger. When the queen comes in to lay an egg, she measures the size of the cell. If it's a standard size cell, she will lay a fertilized egg, which becomes a female. If it's an oversized cell, she lays an unfertilized egg, which becomes the male. Now, in addition to that, there's also the queen cells, which is a totally different animal altogether. So the worker determines the size of the cell. The queen finds out the size of the cell and lays a fertilized or unfertilized eggs based on that size. Oh, when you get into this is fascinating. Yes. So, yes, the queen makes the determination whether fertilized or not, but the workers tell her what to lay because of the size of the cell that they create. Yes.
And they usually create the bigger cells for the males on the outskirts because they don't need the same attention.
Yes.
And heat.
Yes. And it's only a couple of degrees difference, but the heat cold enters from the outside. So if they're going to lose anybody, lose the males. Protect the ones who do everything. That seems to be the approach that's gone in there. Whether that's been scientifically proven or not, I don't know, but
But the drones, the males, they contribute nothing to their own hive. They're just going out trying to find virgin queens. Queens are scarce, right? So.
okay, let me see if we got this straight. 100,000 bees in a hive, 90,000 are females, 10,000 are males, and a queen is one. Okay, yes, your math worked out. The standard answer to your question is, the only purpose of a male is to go out and mate with the female. There's a lot of secondary arguments, suspicion, theories, that the males also help contribute to the operation of the hive, helping keeping temperature regulated, and a few other things, but it's never been really documented. A lot of this is suspicion and observation more than, oh, you saw that and you saw that, and oh yeah, that makes sense. But the drones do have a purpose in the hive. And the reason for that, I'm going to tell you, is number one, the workers defend their hive. If a bee comes in, or anything comes in that does not smell like their sister, gets ejected. Guard bees will not let them in the hive unless it's a male bee. They don't care. They'll let any male bee from any hive enter and feed them. So the hive is telling me they must feel that all drones are important.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay.
Who's mating with, does the queen just mate like one time and then she produces eggs for the rest of her life?
Okay, let me get that one. Let's back up a little bit. I told you queen cells are different. There's only 5 or 6 queen cells. Now where everything else, all of my worker bees and my drones have their cells like this and they develop this way. The queen has her cell this way. And they build a special cell. It looks like a hanging peanut on the side of their comb. And it's usually put around the outside perimeter, down close to the bottom, and it's twice as big as anything. You only build a couple of these. When the queen goes down and finds that queen cell, she then selects an egg to lay in there. I have been told that the queen can determine which sperm, and I'll get to this in a second, to fertilize that egg with. Now when she hatches, she is going to leave the hive to go out to that drone congregation here where all the drones are hanging out and mate. She is going to mate 20, 30, 40 times with different males. This is how the bees have guaranteed diversity of their species. She will then come back to the hive after she has successfully mated, and she will continue to mate until her spermata, a special sperm sac that all those males' sperm is stored in, and it will last her 5 years. So she's got to go crazy that first out there, comes back, and she does not leave the hive again until she swarms 2 or 3 years later. So she can turn around and say, I'm going to use sperm from donor number 1 today. Tomorrow I'm going to use it from donor number 5. The next day might be donor number 7. And the sisters can tell the difference between
Out of one,
meetings, right?
Yes.
Okay, so she's out there. Now, sisters can tell sisters from stepsisters. Because if you remember that chart I showed you with all the bees, if I happen to have an Italian and a Carolina bees, I can look in there, I can see dark bees and light bees in my hive. Those are stepsisters. And they know the difference. They can tell what the genetics were. Yeah, so she turns around, and then the worker bees will feed them the royal jelly, and those eggs only get royal jelly. If it's a worker bee, they get royal jelly the first 3 days, then they go into bee bread, and they become a worker. If you're a queen, you only get fed royal jelly, and then you develop into a queen. As you're getting close to the hatching, where the queen comes out of her cell, they start piping or yelling, I'm ready, here I am, I'm coming, all that. At which time, the first queen out hears her sisters and goes on a rampage to destroy them. Only one queen is allowed in a hive. Now, sometimes the worker bees will defend their sister queen and may just direct or encourage or protect.
because they know they're ready to swarm and split?
No, because they're more or less, let's call it politics. They want their group to have the dominant queen. But the strongest, most capable queen is picked by the colony. How the workers act, which one, how many cells do they make? Sometimes they've been known to take eggs and move them into a queen cell. These colonies, it's known as a superorganism for a reason. So yes, they can turn around and go through all of that. First queen out destroys everybody else, and she then becomes the matriarch. She has to survive the mating flight. If she doesn't make it back, the whole process starts again.
So does that happen every season, or is it just, is it timed based on what they think their current queen is at the end of her lifespan?
Okay, the question is how often this process happens. 3 different scenarios. Number 1, swarming. Going to take the colony, it's strong, it's doing good, divide it. Before the colony actually starts to, they make the new queen cells, because the old queen has to lay the eggs. Just before they're ready to come out, these now leave. Process complete, process number 1. Process number 2, the queen is doing good. She lives 3 to 5 years. But now she's getting older and she's running out of eggs or sperm. The colony senses it. They say it's time for a new queen. It's called supersedure. They start making queen cells, and the old queen goes out and plants the seeds, eggs in those cells, making her own replacements. They hatch out the new queen. The colony kills off the old queen. Scenario number 3. Tim goes in to inspect his hive. He's not careful. He pulls it up and looks over here to get a better light, and the queen falls off, and he says, "Where's that queen?"
Yeah, that's happened.
And now we have a hive that is queenless. We have to make an emergency queen. As soon as they find out there is no queen, they lost her scent. Within 48 hours, the hive is creating a new cell. They will go in and find one of those eggs with young larvae, less than 3 days old, and turn that into a queen cell. Did that answer your question? Wasn't as easy as you thought, was it? Okay, we're doing good in questions. I love it, guys.
What is royal jelly made out of?
Royal jelly is basically, okay, I'm going to be good on this one. I have to have backup. Pollen and nectar processed by the bees within their bee stomach. It's fed directly from the bees. Am I correct on this?
There's a number of different glands in the bee's head, and depending on what they're trying to do with the end product that they're making, they will secrete from their heads.
Yeah, so,
Royal jelly has the most nutritional value of anything that they make.
yep.
Okay.
That was a very good question, by the way. But usually, bee bread is when you're taking pollen and nectar, mixing it with the royal jelly created by the bees, specifically as the food. So, it's a combination of that. Royal jelly is extremely valuable to it and hard to come by.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions today? Yes.
So this is the man-made part of natural behavior, right? And we are interfering in nature. So when they have the wax in their hives established, how often would we either like change those out, like start out a fresh one, or touch it all, or just how would you go through the process of assisting without interfering?
Okay. Let me see if I understood your question correctly. How often do we change the wax?
Right, like do we change out frames, or do we like, what do we do with humans here?
Oh, you guys are doing good today. Love your questions. Wax. Second most valuable thing in a hive, next to the food themselves. It takes a lot of effort, a lot of supplies to build wax. We like to keep the wax as long as possible. The bees do that. In nature, bees will build in a tree hollow. The very top of the hollow is where they start, and they will build their comb hanging down, and as each year it gets a little bit lower. The colony sets the brood nest at the bottom of the comb. And as it gets bigger, she'll move down on it, and then they store their winter supplies honey up on top. Now we come along and put that into a box. Unfortunately, we flip the box upside down. We have old wax on the bottom. 3 to 5 years is what the industry standard is, then we got to take it out, and by that time that wax is so dark, so black, so brittle, and so full of contamination. Some people question whether it should be kept that long. Bees progressively in nature always build and move down onto new wax. Some beekeepers will turn around and say, rotate it out every 2 to 3 years. In my horizontal top bar, I have no frames, I have no foundation. When I harvest wax. I'm turning over my wax every year. So if I have 2-year-old wax, it's old wax in my hive. But that's because of the style of hive I'm using. I do recommend no more than 3 years. I don't like the 5 years, even though there's some on it. And there's economic reasons to keep it that long. But I don't know if it's as healthy. Did that answer your question?
Yes, well, and then more so every year, that's why we're waiting for the spring, because they're going through the whole process for the whole year again.
Yes.
Or a
Mhm.
little longer, depending on more space for them to grow for 2 years or whatever you're saying.
Yeah, in my hive, I got the
Do
horse.
they turn the frames upside down though? Like,
Oh, no, we actually take the frames out, harvest it, put a fresh frame in there, and let them rebuild a new wax on it.
okay, so we're cleaning these frames, we're buying new ones,
Okay, we clean them.
okay?
Yes, there's a dipping process in there. Anybody who goes into the Langstroth hives has 2 or 3 extra hives in reserve for working. So when you buy one, you might as well buy 3 because you're going to need them
There it is, okay.
per hive. Yes. Did I?
Did you have a question about bees? What's your question?
And I'm going to have you, need you to repeat it for me.
Okay, no problem. What's your question about bees?
Do bees spit out the honey and chew it up and then throw it up?
Do bees chew up and then is honey made out of
Is
because
honey
the bees
bee
grow up?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yes, it is actually bee spit.
Good question.
Yes, they do put it in, when they go out to get their nectar, they put it in a special stomach, so it's not their digestive stomach, and they regurgitate it when they get back to the hive, which means they bring it back up. They give it to another bee, who puts it in their bee stomach, and move it back and forth to help the evaporation process, add enzymes to it, adds minerals. Then they store